Hey, YouTube. This is the drawing I finished after my last drawing. Cue me flashing that on screen. My last drawing took about 6 months, and as I mentioned in the video where I explained what I am doing with that one, I don't know if that's in the camera at the moment, but I will flash that on screen. I already did. But in that video, I also said the same thing about my last drawing, the one I finished before that one, which took 1 year and 1 month. This current drawing took only 3 months and very messy for some of it. But experimenting with moving more quickly and less precisely, I suppose. One of my soundproofing squares has fallen off the wall. That's going to drive me nuts for the whole video, which I will now start playing. Won't I? There's some lag. Okay, so that area. Look, it's a little city. If you get the freaking thing out the way. Well, my hand's still in the way, but anyway, there's not much going on there. That first little part I just filled up with houses, and then I had to move up the hill there with a little zigzag because it was too steep of a hill, something I had anticipated when I was drawing the islands in, because as usual, actually, not as usual, because generally I would say the parallel rule down the bottom would be sitting at precisely the bottom of the page, and then I would just draw a black line horizontally across the entire page to indicate where the ocean is. Just had an idea. Road time. Draw a city drawing that doesn't have ocean. But I like the ocean because then you get to do islands and it caps off where the edges are. So you kind of contain it within the page. Whereas if it was flowing off the page, well, no, I always make islands in city skylines as well. For this reason, I just love having it being self-contained and getting to control the infrastructure in that way, not having things flow off the map and imagining that there's something happening out there. I'm in control. Paranoid over controller is something that speaks to me. Anyway, so moving up to the top of the hill, I called that area Rose. That's R-O-S-E, not to be confused with R-O-W-S, which I figure people might ascribe to this drawing, given there are lots of rows across as opposed to columns, that kind of rose. But no, I just mean Rose the flower, because I couldn't think of a better name. Well, I mean, yeah, I don't like the name Rose at all, but it sounded so generic of a suburb name that I went with it. Whereas generally I would have a whole slew of memes that I want to throw onto the page, and I just could not think of one at that time. Then zigzagging down the hill because again it was pretty steep, and a little arch bridge across to, I think I called that area Roseport because I have just drawn a little port there on the left side, and then onto the right side there is another pier, although that was not a port. That looks like it might be a train station to me. I can't remember what that was. I think it was just a pier for the sake of having, like the Simpsons pier. Cue me flashing that on screen. Note to self. And then, yeah, I did some weird curving upwards bridge because there's no way really for a bridge to dock onto, sea level-ish shore like Rose Port were. And then I think the area over to the right was going to be called Rose Pond. Oh, just a second, because there's an interchange popping up here. Interchange being the name of the game. Always. Slightly less becoming the name of the game. I don't always focus on interchanges now. Maybe I do more. I don't always talk about focusing on interchanges anyway, I don't think. But yeah, that one didn't really work out. You can see there's like a thick black curved line going through the middle of it, which was a mistake. That made me want to throw the whole page out, but I'd come far enough and I figured, I actually liked the way that the shape of the roads were coming along. Here we go, talking about interchanges, or the way roads are. And this is the point where I started stacking things. And I thought this was an interesting stack because you had the arch bridge down the bottom and then a strange, messed up interchange on one side and a platform over Roseport. Yeah, that's what was being connected there. And then I liked this diagonal diagonally oriented platform, which I kind of gathered would be just outside the CBD, if I recall. I'm going to have to wait till the CBD pops up because I can't remember precisely how integrated that diagonal platform was. I think maybe I made another one a bit higher up, which became CBD2. I think that smaller diagonal platform might just be an extension to Rose. Rose, and then I think I called that like Rose Heights because it's up. Do you know what? I would be referencing the actual drawing if it were here. But I actually made this video yesterday before I took the drawing to get framed. I never hit record. Well, I did hit record. See the video, but it has no sound because I did not turn on my microphone. Which is good because I didn't really like the commentary I did yesterday. We'll see if this one turns out any better, won't we? Look, this is the only rail line in the whole thing, which I usually love to make a mix of rail and road, and then always an airport, but never an airport appears in this drawing, which is like the first time. Like I have a drawing over there that's got an airport. That one has an airport. The one that took 1 year and 1 month is out there. That's got an airport. And I'm pretty sure just about every drawing that I drew for long enough that it would move, that it would take up the whole page, would have an airport all the way back to like I started doing these drawings in year 3 and probably became dogmatic in including the same things shortly into that. So most of them had airports, but I had a big box of drawings like this that I did all through primary school and high school, and it was destroyed in a flood. So I only have a few drawings at the moment, but the drawings I have been doing more recently are much more precise. So I mean, I don't really mind about losing the box, although it would have been a nice memento. Most of those drawings were pretty messy, though it would have been interesting. And as my best friend's mother pointed out when I was like 10 to 15, if I took all of my drawings and just lined them up all together, it would look like a, persistent cityscape. And indeed, that would have been cool. I mean, I would have had a lot. I could have filled up like walls with that stuff. So that would have been cool. Now I think I've drawn the platform. Oop, I'm pointing with my cursor. Oh, maybe that's a good idea. That could be better than pointing, or I could do both. Yeah, there's the platform for the CBD, and there's a little sign that says CBD. Often I do curved signs like that, such as one there. And how is the CBD being connected so far? The CBD, I always want to be the most connected part of a region. And this region is Rose. So the CBD, I think I called it, so the plain Rose part was just there. What did I call the CBD? I know, Rose something. Rose Hub? I wouldn't have done that. But anyway, this is the CBD of Rose. All these areas here comprising Rose. I would call that an urban area. I like to connect all these places as if they are separate municipalities, but there's no break in the connection as such. It's kind of arbitrary, which in real life, if we consider, I have to pick a city. Adelaide. I know Adelaide. Gawler is a separate town. That's probably not a good example. Aldinga? No, that's in the metro area too. I don't know. Maybe the Adelaide Hills. No, much of that is considered the metro area too. See, this is trying to distinguish between metropolitan area and urban area. A better example is the tri-state area in America, because Australia is small and does not have a tri-state area, as far as I know, but I'm pretty certain that there's a lot of gap as opposed to the American version where across 3 states, you can drive through them all. And the infrastructure, you get the impression you're driving from one place to another, but actually there's no break in the urbanity, which I love. Yeah, I never mentioned, okay, all I have so far is just from Rose up to the CBD, and from Rose, that's not Rose Hill because, that might be Rose Hill, and that was Rose Heights. That makes sense. What did I call that? Rose Hill. Again, I don't have the drawing to check. Now, drawing little platforms on the edge of the CBD, which are basically part of it, but I can think of that as a little North Adelaide to Adelaide. like a not CBD, but close enough that you look at them as the same thing. Again, looking at different layers and levels of connection here, I suppose. And starting to try and level out the whole map with the CBD. With some platforms to the left there. And then I don't know what happens for a while. But let me point out that building. This little Japanese-inspired building. It's got a few Japanesey curving up roofs, which I liked. And I think I do a bigger version of that in the CBD, although it turned out pretty messy. But I still liked the shape and using those roofs. Often I will feel like as I get higher and higher with the skyscrapers, like I tend to get thicker and thicker outwards as well with the buildings. And so every now and then I just go, I'm going to do a skinny little twig stick of a building, which is what that one was. And I especially love when the little skinny twig eclipses the rest of the buildings, ends up being more higher than them, even though it's so small, even though it will be overtaken by many more buildings in the past, but in the future. Wow, the CBD filled up very quick. I did not even see me do that. See how many, like it makes a big difference to get my head out the way. That makes a difference. Look at my head, it's like this. And I had blonde hair back then, wasn't that fun? Well, it's still fading away. But yeah, notice how there are, per level, there's many buildings here. That's for the CBD. It makes it look so much more busy. Whereas if you just build up quickly, I mean, this looks more busy at the moment just because if you ignore the Matthew Horsnell Casino that I'll get to in a second, this looks more busy just because it's higher. But once this is higher, the fact of having all these layers underneath, I think gives the effect of busyness, CBD, density. The Matthew Horsnell Casino Megaplex, shopping center megaplex or something like that. It's a 30-story. See, this is an A2 page, and these are skyscrapers. The houses are teensy. Like, if I can get to one of the original houses. See, like, there's a 1-story house, and it just looks like, I mean, that's like 5 or 10 pixels on my screen. Why was I talking about that? Then the 30-story shopping center. Like, look how high up we already are in the CBD. That's 30 freaking stories. Although the scale is lost once I start drawing windows up here. The scale changes a lot. But we might consider this, the 30 stories of the shopping center, then 100 floors of hotel, I think it was. Which it might even be. I do draw a lot of lines through here. We'll see. What am I doing? Vertical lines. Here's the horizontal lines. Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, that could well be 100 floors. Maybe the scale, wasn't as skewed as I thought. And then on top of that, so we're like 130 floors up, is a massive casino. Yeah. Which I did because I named that after someone I met who I thought was takes chances. Okay. Then there's a big skip in the video. So stand by for some little mini videos I did in the meantime. Although I will mention I went through a bit of a deep and dark depression and thought that my work was useless for quite some time and stopped filming on the roof. Anyway, it was cool to hone in on some little iPhone videos. So, Okay, trying to keep this short and sweet because I actually have a 10-day Vipassana retreat that I meant to leave for now. And yep, that was the J. Nolan building, followed by Port Godwin, a nice variation on my usual multi-story crane port thing. One of the other dogmatic, I don't think they're dogmatic. One of the other things I love to include every single time in my drawings are held up by the Godwin pillar of strength because he told me he's strong. Ooh, and a nice crane. Again, another variation. I always have these cranes, but this one was nice and complicated. Lots of wheels and pulleys. Rushing through the last part, I've sped it up 4 times. The main thing is that I drew that highway underneath the whole city, which is why I didn't draw my usual parallel rule widths worth across the bottom of the page. Rather, the ocean is much higher because I wanted more highways underneath and a submarine port. But alas, all we have is this, and I wanted to finish it quickly. And then that was a nice bridge up at the top of the screen there, a suspension bridge sort of through one of the tallest buildings in the map. And then here I am drawing one of the last areas, another complementing platform to the CBD, though it is next to it up at the top again. I want to talk about one more building, which is the biggest, tallest, widest building in the whole map, which is the one on the left here, which originally was going to be dedicated to my father, but now I dedicate it to myself. And it too has a casino on it, like the Matthew Horsnell casino, but much larger and grander and with a wicked ass expensive restaurant, whatever. Next to a church and such. It says "Love will save us" on the top. I don't know where the hell I got that from. But yeah, it's got this giant spotlight illuminating all of the boys whom I drew into my picture. And what's the word? Towering over them. Yes, how's that for symbology? It's got these elevators running up and down. And oh yes, as I narrated to myself many times while I was drawing this and filming myself with my iPhone, I just like that this time I left a part of the map blank, specifically anticipating that I could fill, from water level up to sky level, an entire building and see how large it was. And there it is. Oh, and on the left is a series of clubs. Nigeria, Serbia, African Voodoo, Fire Truck, what's next? Engine Room, and Day Cave. That's all. Thanks for watching, and goodbye forever.